George turned his head over his shoulder. I met my lady in the village. He told me yesterday that they were both leaving for London tomorrow and that he wasn't sure. When would they be back?
As you think, George must have misunderstood.
Anyway, she wondered what exactly Gerald had told you to make the old man make such a curious mistake. Go to London. The girl never wanted to go back to London.
I hate London.
I must have been wrong somehow, although I thought I heard it quite a bit. Sure. I'm glad you're both staying here. I can't stand all those asphalt streets and everything that has to do with London. I've never needed to go there. There are too many motor cars. That's the problem these days. Once people have a motor car, it's a miracle if they can stay still anywhere. My Mrs. Ames, the former owner of this nice, quiet cottage, was quite a gentleman until she bought one of those things. It wasn't even a month before I put this house up for sale. I had also spent a good amount on it with faucets in all the bedrooms and electric light, and everything will never get its money back. I told him not everyone will share your luxury of bathing in every room of the house, so to speak. But George told me, "You'll see, I'll get back every penny of the £2,000 for this house," and he did. Said George, quietly.
He got 3,000.
2,000, my lady. There was talk of the sum he was asking for, and it was thought to be a very high figure, George corrected.
Was it really 3,000?
Women never understand numbers. You won't tell me that the gentleman had the nerve to ask in front of you for 3,000 shamelessly from the Four Winds, or did you? Said George, unconvinced.
He didn't tell me.
Alex said.
She told my husband.
George bent over the flower beds again, but the price was 2,000, said the old man stubbornly. Alex didn't bother arguing with him. He addressed one of the furthest beds and began to pick a bouquet of flowers. As she carried her fragrant bouquet toward the house, Alex noticed a small dark green object peeking out from among some sheets on one of the beds. She bent down and picked it up, recognizing that it was her husband's pocket diary. It must have fallen out of his pocket when he was moving the mess out of the bed. He opened it, examining the entries with some amusement. Almost from the beginning of his married life, he had realized that the impulsive and emotional Gerald had the unusual virtues of neatness and methodicality. He was extremely demanding about the punctuality of meals and always planned his day with the precision of a schedule. As he leafed through the newspaper, it was funny to notice the entry with the date May 14th.
Marrying Alex at 2:30? Are you a fool?
Alex muttered to herself as she flipped through the pages. Suddenly she stopped.
Thursday, June 18th, because it's today, huh?
The space for that day was written in Gerald's clear and precise handwriting. 9 p.m. no more. What had Gerald planned to do at 9 p.m., he wondered. Alex smiled to himself as he realized that if it had been a story like the ones he had read so many times, the diary would undoubtedly have provided some sensational revelation. Surely it would have had another woman's name. He passed the last few pages without doing anything. There were dates, appointments, references, cryptic business, but only one woman's name. His. However, when the book was stored in the pocket and safe, he drove home with the flowers. He felt a vague unease. Those words of Dick Windyford came to her almost as if she were standing beside her, repeating that. "Man, he's a complete stranger to you. You don't know anything about him." That was true. What did she know about him after all? Gerald was 40. In 40 years there must have been women in his life. Alex shook himself impatiently. He must not give in to such thoughts. I had a much more immediate concern to deal with. She should or shouldn't tell her husband that Dickon of Ford had called her. There was a chance that Gerald had already run into him in the village, but in that case he would make sure to mention it immediately on his return, and the matter would be out of his hands. On the other hand, Alex was conscious of a clear desire not to say anything about it. If she told Gerald, she would probably suggest inviting Dick Windyford to Philomel's cabin. Then she would have to explain that Dick himself had proposed it, and that she had invented an excuse to prevent his visit. And when her husband asked her why she had done it, she would say, tell him her dream. Surely Gerald would scoff, or worse, see that she gave him more importance than usual. In the end, rather embarrassed, Alex decided not to say anything. It was the first secret she had kept from her husband, and knowing it made her feel uncomfortable. When she heard Gerald return from the village shortly before lunch, she hurried to the kitchen and pretended to be busy cooking to hide her confusion. It was immediately evident that Gerald had not known that Dick Windyford was in the village. Alex was both relieved and embarrassed. Now she was definitely committed to a cover-up situation. It wasn't until after their afternoon snack, when they were sitting in the living room with oak beams and the windows open to let in the sweet night air, perfumed with the perfume of the mauve and white vines growing outside, that Alex remembered the pocket journal.
Here's something I found when the flowers arrived.
He said and put it in his hand. It fell over the edge, didn't it?
Yeah, now I know all your secrets.
I have nothing that hide, Gerald said, shaking his head.
What about your 9 appointment, H tonight?
Oh, that seemed baffled for a moment. Then he smiled as if something particularly amused him. It's a date with a girl in particular. Nice. His name is Alex. He has brown hair and blue eyes and looks particularly like you.
I don't understand anything. Are you missing the point?
No, I'm not. Actually, that's a reminder that tonight I'm gonna reveal some negatives. And I want you to help me. Gerald Martin was an enthusiastic photographer. He had a somewhat outdated camera, but with excellent focus, and developed his own rolls in a small basement that he had prepared as a dark room.
And that must be done exactly at 9 a.m.
Gerard looked a little annoyed. Honey one, you should always plan something for a while. Exactly like that. The job is done properly, he said. With a tone of irritation in her manners, Alex sat in silence for 1 or 2 minutes, watching her husband lying in his chair smoking, with the back of his head thrown back and the clear lines of his well-shaven face appearing against the gloomy background. And suddenly, from some unknown source, a wave of panic seized her, so she mentioned it before she could contain herself.
Oh, Gerald, I wish I knew more about you.
Her husband turned to her in astonishment. But my dear Alex, you know everything about me. I told you about my childhood in North Homberland, my life in South Africa, and these last 10 years in Canada that have brought me success.
Yeah, but that's just business.
Gerard laughed suddenly. I know what you like. You mean? Love affairs, right? You women are all the same. Nothing interests you except knowing each other. That special one for a man. Alice felt her throat dry as she murmured indistinctly.
Well, but there must have been love affairs. I mean, if you would just tell me.
There was silence again for 1 or 2 minutes. Gerard Martin was sleepy and uncertain when he spoke. He did so gravely, without a trace of his old joking attitude. What do you want, Alex? Play detective or something? I knew in my life? Yeah, I don't deny it. You wouldn't believe me if I denied it, but I swear. The truth is, none of them meant anything to me. There was a tone of sincerity in his voice that comforted the listening wife. Satisfied, Alex? He asked with a smile. Then he looked at her curiously. What made you think of these unpleasant topics? Tonight, precisely. Never them. Did you mention before? Alex got up and started walking uneasily.
Oh, I don't know. I've been nervous all day.
That's strange, very strange. Gerald in a low voice, as if talking to himself.
Why is it weird?
Oh honey, don't talk to me like weird. I just said it was weird because usually you're very sweet and serene, Alex. He forced one smile.
All plotted to upset me today? Even old George had gotten into his head. The ridiculous idea that we were going to London said you told him.
Where have you seen him?
He came to work today instead of Friday.
That old man.
Yo soy la guardiana de las sombras.
Y yo el narrador fantasma. Te invitamos a suscribirte y a que mires estos otros videos.
No olvides activar la campana para no perderte ninguno de nuestros relatos. Y si te ha gustado, comparte con tus amigos.
Esperamos que tus noches sean un viaje a lo desconocido y tus sueños un eco de nuestras historias.